Hello and welcome back to Friday Minis. Now, today, let's do something a little bit different. Let's do a little bit of show and tell. Now, if you've watched any film where they tried to portray some kind of old-timey photographer, sometimes they'll be portrayed as this weird looking guy standing behind a camera and holding this thing in his hands. Yeah, something like that. And that thing he's holding in his hand is something that he's using to operate the camera. Well, what exactly is that and what is its purpose? Well, I just happen to have one of these right here. This is called a cable release, and the whole idea is instead of actually pressing the shutter button on your camera, you press this instead. And it's an entirely mechanical thing that triggers the shutter of the camera. So you may be asking, why do we need such a thing? How does it connect to our camera? And why don't we see people using that these days? So taking these questions from the top, the purpose of a cable release is to actually trigger the shutter of the camera in such a way that, doesn't actually cause shaking of the camera itself. If you've ever taken photographs, you'll know that if you actually shake up the camera when taking the picture, you'll get a blurry picture because of the motion blur. Having a cable release like this allows you to actually operate your camera with your hand away from the camera itself. And what this means is, when you actually press on this little release, chances are you're not really shaking up the camera. This is particularly useful for shooting long exposure photography, basically a photograph in which your camera collects light over a long period of time. In fact, certain modes on your camera allow you to actually hold the shutter open for as long as you like. However, if that is the case, you probably don't want your finger on the actual camera itself, because you'll probably shake it up and destroy the shot. Having a cable release basically relieves of this problem. This then leads us on to our next two questions about why these aren't used today and how do they connect to the camera. In fact, the answer for one is the answer for the other. In fact, most modern cameras don't actually have somewhere for you to connect this to your camera. I happen to have a Nikon D100, which is a pretty old DSLR camera, and as you can see on the shutter button itself, there is actually a little screw thread for me to attach the shutter release to the shutter button. I don't think many cameras these days actually support a physical cable release like that. In fact, if people today wanted to do the same thing, they'll probably use a remote control. These communicate with the camera, normally via infrared, or in the case of my Canon DSLR, over Wi-Fi. Basically gives you another way of operating the shutter on your camera without actually having to touch the camera itself. And there you have it, that is the cable release in a nutshell. That's all there is for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, you're watching 0612 TV. Hello! If you enjoyed this video, don't forget I appreciate every like, favorite, and comment you give me. If you'd like to see more from me in the future, don't forget to subscribe. For more updates outside of YouTube, do follow my official Twitter account at 0612 TV. And if you'd like to see more of my work, you can also check out my About Me page. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, you're watching 0612 TV.